The rumble of the docking clamps echoed through the corridors of the orbital trade station Zephyr. David adjusted the collar of his jacket as he stepped off his modest trading vessel, the Nomad's Bargain, into the bustling thoroughfare of the station. The Zephyr served as a central hub for commerce and diplomacy in this sector of space. Giant wheels spinning silently in orbit around a vibrant, resource-rich planet. "Welcome to Zephyr Station, Captain David Heller," a robotic voice intoned as he passed through the security checkpoint, its scanners flicking over him with cold precision. David smiled faintly, nodding to the guards, a mix of humans and aliens, before proceeding. He wasn't new to this. His travels brought him here every few cycles to trade goods from distant human colonies. As he navigated through the crowded promenade, his communicator buzzed. "David, you're back. Let's meet up," said a familiar voice crackling through the speaker. It was Miko, an old friend and fellow trader who specialized in rare minerals. "Sure thing, Miko. At the usual spot," David replied. "The very same. See you in 10, Miko confirmed. The usual spot turned out to be the Driftwood, a quiet bar nestled in one of the outer segments of the station, known for its view of the planet below and its excellent brew of yore, a favorite among the station's diverse patrons. David entered the Driftwood, spotting Miko already waving at him from their favorite table by the window. Miko was a tall, wiry man with a mop of unruly hair that somehow added to his charm, especially among the alien clientele. "David, how's the universe treating you?" Miko asked, standing to clasp David's hand with both of his own. "As well as it can, considering the distances involved," David replied, taking a seat. They ordered their drinks, and Miko leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Heard about the new tariff on artificial intelligences? It's going to make a mess for anyone trading in tech goods." David sighed. "It's always something on the frontier. Speaking of which, got any leads on new markets? I've got a cargo hold full of Terran vintage wines that need a home." Miko's eyes lit up. "Actually, yes. There's a collector on the lower ring, an Arcturian, loves anything from Earth. I can introduce you." "Perfect. And how's the family?" David shifted the topic, knowing Miko's wife had been expecting a child. "Growing. We're expecting our second now. Life's getting busier," Miko chuckled, his pride evident even as he groaned at the thought of sleepless nights ahead. Their drinks arrived, and the two clinked glasses, the rich, malty aroma of the brew of your mingling with the scent of space-oiled metal that perpetually hung about the station. "Listen, David, there's more," Miko said after a thoughtful sip. "I've been hearing rumors about a new player in the tech sector. Someone not too fond of humans. You might want to watch your back." David nodded, processing the information. "Appreciate the heads up. I'll keep my eyes open." As they continued to discuss trade routes and market trends, David felt the familiar thrill of life at the edge of human space. Here, among the stars, surrounded by the hum of alien dialects and the vastness of the cosmos, he was home. Their meeting wrapped up with a promise to catch up again before David left the station. He then made his way to his assigned quarters, a comfortable enough space furnished with necessities and a few personal touches he'd added over the years. Before he could enter, he noticed his door was slightly ajar. Cautiously pushing it open, he found a new figure inside, a slender, humanoid form with luminous skin and delicate features, adjusting the settings on his cleaning unit. "Oh, I apologize, sir. I didn't expect you so soon. I'm Alara, your service attendant for this stay," she said, her voice melodic, her accent unfamiliar. "No problem, Alara. Just wasn't expecting someone so soon," David replied, reassured but curious about this new face, her species not immediately recognizable to him. "Which part of the galaxy do you hail from?" "From the aquatic worlds of Hydrones. It's quite a different view from there," she said with a graceful gesture that encompassed the station's metallic confines and the star-studded blackness beyond. "Well, welcome to Zephyr. And to my little corner of it," David said, stepping fully into the room. "Let's make sure we both make the most of it." As Alara nodded, her gaze drifting momentarily toward the stars, David felt the start of another intriguing chapter in his life among the cosmos. David sat across from his room's table, studying his inventory lists, when a soft knock at the door interrupted his focus. He glanced up to see Alara peeking in, a small smile playing at the edges of her lips. "Come in, Alara. What brings you here this evening?" David inquired, setting aside his tablet. "I have brought extra linens for your room, as per the new station regulations. May I come in?" Alara's voice was calm, her movements fluid as she entered, bearing a bundle of neatly folded fabrics. "Sure, just over there in the cupboard," David directed, pointing towards a small storage area beside the sleeping quarters. As Alara busied herself with the linens, David observed her graceful efficiency. "You're quite adept at this. How long have you been at Zephyr?" "Not long, just a few months. It's different from Hydrones, but I find it intriguing here," she replied, her tone hinting at a reserved curiosity about her new environment. "Must be quite the change. From an aquatic world to a space station," David mused, folding his arms. "It is. But change brings new opportunities, doesn't it?" Alara smiled, closing the cupboard doors gently. "Speaking of opportunities, I might have one for you." David's words caught Alara's attention as she turned to face him. "I meet a lot of traders and travelers here. I'm always in need of local insights. Maybe you could help me understand the alien markets better." "I would like that," Alara said, a flicker of excitement crossing her features. "I can provide information about various species' preferences and trading practices." "Great. Let's start tomorrow. We'll have dinner at the Driftwood. Go over some details?" David suggested, standing to extend his hand in agreement. "I look forward to it," Alara responded, shaking his hand with a firm grip that surprised him. Later that evening, David met with another old friend, Jonas, at a crowded gym on the station's recreation level. Jonas was a large, burly man, his head shaved clean, his laughter booming over the clatter of weights and the hum of treadmills. "David, still trying to outlift the gravity here." "I see," Jonas joked, clapping David on the back as they greeted. "Trying to keep up with you, more like." "How's the security business?" David asked, picking up a pair of dumbbells. "Busy as ever. You wouldn't believe the kinds of things that go missing around here." From tech gadgets to exotic foods, Jonas grunted as he hoisted a heavy barbell. "That's why I stick to legal trades only. Speaking of which, I met someone who might help expand my network," David shared, adjusting his grip. "Oh, someone special?" Jonas raised an eyebrow, setting down the barbell with a clang. "Maybe, in a sense. She's my new maid, Alara, from Hydrones. Turns out she's quite knowledgeable about the alien sectors," David explained as they moved between exercise stations. "Careful, my friend. Mixing business with personal affairs can get tricky," Jonas warned, a protective edge to his tone. "It's strictly professional. For now, at least. I'm hoping she can give me insights into the alien markets. Could really help with the new tariffs coming into play," David elaborated, feeling the burn of his workout. "Sounds like a solid plan. Just watch your back. You know how complicated interspecies politics can get," Jonas advised, wiping sweat from his brow as they concluded their session. "I will." "Thanks, Jonas," David said, clapping him on the shoulder. "I'll see you around." With a plan forming and new alliances building, David left the gym feeling more connected to the pulse of Zephyr than ever. Tomorrow's dinner with Alara would be crucial, the beginning of what he hoped would be a fruitful collaboration. David arrived at the Driftwood a few minutes early, selecting a table with a good view of both the entrance and the sprawling vista of stars outside the station's viewing port. He ordered a brew of yore, appreciating its rich, malty flavor as he waited for Alara. She arrived promptly, her luminous skin subtly reflecting the ambient light of the bar. "David, I hope I haven't kept you waiting," she greeted, taking a seat opposite him. "Not at all, Alara. Here, try this," David offered, signaling the bartender to bring another glass of the brew of yore. As they sipped their drinks, David laid out his digital tablet filled with graphs and data. "Here's what I'm thinking," he started. "You help me understand the market demands of non-human traders, and I'll make sure you get a fair share of any profits from deals closed with your insights." "That seems equitable," Alara replied, studying the charts with keen eyes. "I can start by providing information on the preferred commodities of the Aquarelix traders from my system. Water-based products are particularly valuable." Their discussion was soon interrupted by the arrival of another figure. "David, fancy seeing you here," called out a voice robust with friendly overtones. It was Reagan, a fellow human trader known for his ventures into luxury goods. His sharp suit contrasted with the casual attire of most patrons, making him stand out. "Reagan, meet Alara. She's giving me some pointers on the broader market." David introduced them, noting Reagan's immediate interest. "Pleased to meet you, Alara. Any friend of David is a friend of mine," Reagan said, extending his hand warmly. "The pleasure is mine," Alara responded, her voice smooth and courteous. "Join us, Reagan. Maybe Alara's insights could benefit you as well," David suggested, seeing an opportunity to extend their network. Reagan sat down, ordering a drink before turning the conversation towards business. "I've been trying to break into the tech market with luxury interfaces, but it's tough with the new tariffs. Any advice?" Alara thought for a moment. "Tech is highly valued, but aesthetics are crucial too. Perhaps you could emphasize the luxury aspect in a way that appeals to both human and non-human aesthetics." "That's an interesting angle," Reagan mused, intrigued. "I could use some of your cultural expertise to refine my approach." As the evening progressed, the trio delved deeper into specifics, discussing potential partnerships and the nuances of interspecies trade. David was pleased to see Alara so engaged, her suggestions sharp and informed. "Thanks for the insights, Alara." "David, you've got a gem here," Reagan commented as he prepared to leave. "Let's touch base next week. I want to draft some proposals based on tonight's discussion." "Sounds good, Reagan." "And Alara, thank you. This has been incredibly helpful," David said as they gathered their things. "It was my pleasure. I enjoyed the discussion and the opportunity to be involved," Alara replied, a trace of satisfaction in her tone. As they left the driftwood, David felt a sense of camaraderie and potential. Walking Alara back to her quarters, he reflected on the productive evening. "Alara, how do you feel about continuing this partnership? There's a lot we can accomplish together." "I would like that, David. Working with you and learning more about human ways is more enlightening than I anticipated," she admitted, her gaze lingering on the stars outside. "Great. Let's make it a regular thing. Maybe you can teach me a bit about hydronies too," David suggested, genuinely interested in her world. "I'd like that," Alara smiled, her eyes reflecting the starlight as they parted ways, each looking forward to their next meeting with a sense of purpose and curiosity. The soft chime of the station's night cycle echoed down the empty hallways as David returned to his quarters after a late meeting with off-world buyers. His thoughts buzzed with numbers and potential profits, barely noticing the light still on under his door. Pushing it open, he paused, surprised to find Alara inside, her figure silhouetted against the soft light of his desk lamp. "Alara, what are you doing here so late?" David asked, his tone more of curiosity than concern. "Oh, Alara seemed momentarily flustered, a rare break in her usually composed demeanor. "I came to return your datapad. You left it at the driftwood. I didn't want it to get stolen." "Thanks, that was thoughtful of you. I didn't even notice it was missing." He smiled, stepping inside and closing the door behind him. "Since you're here, would you like a drink? Something to unwind?" "That would be nice," Alara replied, her earlier composure returning as she sat down on the small sofa in the living area. David poured them each a glass of a mild, fruity liquor from one of his recent trades and joined her on the sofa. "You're becoming quite the lifesaver. First with the trade insights, now this." Alara took a sip, her face lighting up with the taste. "This is delicious." "What is it?" "It's called Virion nectar. Comes from a small planet in the Orion sector. Not easy to come by," he explained, pleased with her reaction. They talked quietly about their days, the conversation flowing more freely than David would have expected in such an impromptu late-night meeting. He noticed Alara seemed more relaxed, her usual reserve melting away as they laughed over shared frustrations with the universal translator malfunctions during negotiations. As the night deepened, their conversation drifted to more personal topics. Alara asked about Earth, and David found himself sharing memories of home, things he hadn't talked about in ages. "Accidentally, my maid came to my room at night. She shocked saw me without," David caught himself, chuckling, "without my usual trader facade. I suppose. You're seeing a side of me I don't usually show people out here. Alara smiled, her eyes reflecting a sincere warmth. I'm glad you did. It's nice to see you as just David, not the traitor. Feeling emboldened by the night's easy camaraderie, David reached over to tuck a stray lock of hair behind her ear. The gesture was intimate, more so than he had intended, and for a moment, they both paused, the air charged between them. Alara's breath caught slightly, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she met his gaze steadily. David, He waited, his hand still lingering near her face. I enjoy this, she finally said. Our talks, this closeness. It's new to me, and I'm not sure what to make of it, but I don't want it to stop. Neither did David. He leaned in, his movement slow, giving her time to decide. She stayed still, her eyes closing as their lips met softly. The kiss was gentle, exploratory. When they parted, they both were breathless. This is unexpected, David murmured. Yes, but not unwanted, Alara replied, her hand finding his. They sat together for a while longer, talking softly, occasionally kissing. It was new and a little uncertain, but it felt right. As the station's artificial dawn began to light the windows, they parted ways, Alara to her quarters, David to his bed, both feeling something had irrevocably changed. David lay awake for a long time, thinking about the night. It had started accidentally, but it had led to something profound, something he knew he wanted to explore despite the potential complications. He finally drifted off to sleep, a tentative plan forming in his mind on how to navigate this unexpected connection. A cosmic storm had been brewing outside the station, the magnetic fields causing spectacular auroras that painted the void with vibrant colors. It was against this backdrop that David found himself heading to Alara's quarters after a day filled with suspended trade negotiations and general station-wide unease due to the storm. As he arrived, he pressed the chime on her door. The door slid open to reveal Alara, who greeted him with a smile that quickly turned to concern. David, is everything all right? It's not like you to visit unannounced during a storm alert, she asked, stepping aside to let him in. The station's on lockdown until the storm passes, and I thought maybe we could use this time to talk. Maybe share more about each other. If you're comfortable with that, David suggested, feeling the urgency of the storm outside mirrored in his need to connect deeper with Alara. Alara nodded, her apartment softly lit and welcoming. I'd like that. I can make us some tea, she offered, moving to her small kitchenette. As she prepared the tea, David looked around, noticing the minimal but personal touches Alara had added to the place. There were images of aquatic landscapes, likely from Hydronies, and beautifully intricate artifacts that shimmered with an iridescent glow. They settled at her dining table with steaming cups in hand. David took a sip and then decided to delve deeper. Alara, last night was unexpected. I find myself wanting to understand more about you, about Hydronies. What was it like growing up there? Alara's eyes lit up with the memory. Hydronies is vast oceans and deep blues. I grew up learning to navigate both the calm and the storm. Life there is about flow, rhythm, and respect for the currents. It's quite different from here, she shared, her voice tinged with nostalgia. David listened intently, captivated. It sounds beautiful. And what brought you here, to Zephyr? It seems like a big leap from such a world. There were complications, political shifts. I needed to find a new rhythm, and Zephyr seemed like a place where I could learn and perhaps, eventually, contribute, Alara explained, her gaze meeting his, searching for understanding. I think you're doing more than just contributing. You're creating a space for yourself here, David said earnestly, reaching across the table to take her hand. Alara squeezed his hand, her expression softening. And what about you, David? What drives you to keep moving through the stars? David's answer was thoughtful. I started trading because it was the family business, but it's become more than that over the years. It's about the connections, the networks, the feeling of bringing distant worlds a little closer together. As they talked, the storm outside seemed to intensify, the flashes of light from the auroras casting dramatic shadows across the room. Yet, inside Alara's quarters, there was a sense of peace and warmth. Eventually, the conversation turned back to the previous night. David, about what happened. Alara began, her voice hesitant. David nodded, encouraging her to continue. I don't want to assume anything about us, about what this might become. But I know I want to explore this, whatever this is, she said, her eyes searching his for any sign of hesitation. David felt a surge of relief mixed with excitement. I'm in the same place, Alara. I want to see where this goes, without any pressures or expectations. As the storm outside began to wane, signaling the approaching end of the lockdown, they both felt a parallel shift between them. A quiet acknowledgement of something new and uncharted beginning to take shape between them. The lockdown ended with the station resuming its usual pace, but for David and Alara, the brief isolation had served to deepen their bond, making them eager to see what future cycles would bring as they explored this new connection together. The station had returned to its usual hum of activity, but for David and Alara, the shared experience of the storm had left a quiet intensity between them. As they navigated this new closeness, David invited Alara to join him on a trading mission within the station, to a sector she hadn't yet explored. Ready to see another side of Zephyr? David asked as they prepared to leave her quarters. I am. Lead the way, Alara responded, her curiosity piqued. Their first stop was a bustling marketplace on the commercial level where David often sourced materials for his trades. The array of stalls displayed goods from countless worlds, colors and scents mingling in the air. As they walked, David introduced Alara to various vendors, explaining the finer points of negotiation tactics in real time. You see, each vendor has their quirks. Reading them correctly can make or break a deal, he explained after successfully bargaining for a rare mineral sample. Alara observed keenly, taking mental notes. It's fascinating, the dynamics here. So different from the academic descriptions I've studied. They paused at a stall showcasing exotic fabrics, the vendor a gruff, middle-aged man named Tarlo, who David knew well. David, back again? Who's this? Tarlo's gaze shifted to Alara, appraising. This is Alara. She's helping me understand the broader market, David introduced her. Tarlo nodded, a slight grin breaking his usually stern demeanor. Smart move. What can I help you folks with today? Alara engaged Tarlo with a question about the origin of the fabrics, leading to a detailed explanation and a lively discussion about trade routes. David watched, impressed with her ability to draw out information. As they left the stall with some fabric samples, David commented, You have a natural knack for this. Ever considered a career in trading? Alara laughed softly. I'm not sure yet. Today has opened my eyes to possibilities I hadn't considered before. Their next visit was to a tech trader, an old friend of David named Jensen, known for his eclectic collection of gadgets and tech. Jensen greeted them with a booming voice. David, what brings you to my humble corner of the cosmos? We're just showing Alara the ropes. Got any new tech that might interest a pair of curious traders? David replied. Jensen unveiled a device he'd just acquired, claiming it could translate nearly any alien language in real time. As they examined the device, Jensen shared rumors of upcoming tech regulations that might affect its distribution. David and Alara listened intently, discussing potential impacts on their operations. The afternoon faded into evening, and David and Alara found themselves at a quiet cafe, reflecting on the day. I learned a lot today, thanks to you, Alara said, her expression thoughtful. I should be thanking you. It's refreshing to have someone so eager to learn alongside me, David responded, his tone sincere. They shared a light meal, the conversation drifting to personal stories about their travels, their losses, and their unexpected joys. The connection deepened as they shared more about their lives, realizing how much they had in common despite their different backgrounds. As they walked back to their quarters, the station's lights dimming to simulate night, David felt a sense of partnership that went beyond business. Alara, I'm really glad you're here. It feels like you're not just part of my business now, but part of my life. Alara stopped, turning to face him, her eyes reflecting the soft station lights. I feel the same, David. It's like finding a harbor in the vastness of space, a place to anchor in the drift. They stood there for a moment, the bustling sounds of the station around them fading into a comfortable silence, both aware that their relationship was evolving into something profound, anchored in mutual respect and deepening affection. As David and Alara's partnership, both in trade and personal matters, grew, it was inevitable that they would encounter some turbulence. It began subtly, with sidelong glances and hushed whispers among other traders and station inhabitants who noticed their frequent collaborations. One morning, while reviewing market analytics in a common area of the station, their friend Miko joined them, his expression unusually serious. "David, Alara, can we talk?" he asked, glancing around to ensure some privacy. "Of course, Miko. What's on your mind?" David responded, noting his friend's concerned tone. Miko sighed, leaning in closer. "Look, you know I'm all for your success, but there's some talk going around. Some folks are uncomfortable with how close you two have gotten. They're starting to question your motives, Alara." Alara's eyes narrowed slightly, a ripple of tension passing through her. "My motives? Not everyone is open-minded about humans and aliens working so closely. They worry about biases or secrets that could affect trade dynamics," Miko explained, his voice low but earnest. David's jaw tightened. "That's ridiculous. We're just working together. Our results speak for themselves." I know. But rumors can hurt, no matter how baseless." "Just thought you should be aware," Miko said, a sympathetic frown creasing his brow. "Thank you, Miko. We'll handle it," David assured him, though unease settled in his gut. Later that day, David and Alara discussed their strategy. "Perhaps we should be more discreet, at least while we figure out a way to dispel these rumors," Alara suggested, though the idea clearly didn't sit well with her. "That doesn't sit right with me," David countered, frustration lacing his words. "We shouldn't have to hide. Maybe we need to be more open, show everyone that our partnership is beneficial, not just to us but to the whole station." Alara considered this, then nodded slowly. "You may be right. Let's plan a small event. A showcase of what we've achieved together. We can present our findings, our trade successes, and demonstrate how our collaboration is a model for future partnerships." Motivated by the challenge, they organized a presentation in one of the station's main conference rooms, inviting traders, station officials, and other inhabitants. The day of the event, David felt a mixture of nerves and defiance. As people filed in, whispering among themselves, David and Alara took the stage. "Thank you for coming," David began, his voice steady. "We're here today not just to talk about our successes, which are substantial, but to demonstrate the power of collaboration in this diverse community." Alara took over smoothly, presenting data and anecdotes about their joint ventures, highlighting the increased profits and expanded network benefits. She spoke eloquently about the strength found in diversity, her words resonating in the quiet that had settled over the room. As the presentation concluded, the audience clapped, some enthusiastically, others politely, but all seemed to consider their points. Afterward, an older trader approached them, his expression thoughtful. "I have to admit, I was skeptical, but seeing the numbers and hearing your stories has opened my eyes. Maybe there's something to this after all." Encouraged by the positive response, David and Alara felt a renewed sense of purpose. They knew challenges would continue to arise, but they were more determined than ever to face them together. That evening, as they walked through the quieter parts of the station, David took Alara's hand. "Whatever comes, we face it together," he said firmly. Alara squeezed his hand, her smile bright under the artificial lights. Together, she agreed, and they continued on, fortified by their shared commitment. The atmosphere on Zephyr Station had shifted in subtle ways over the past few months. David and Alara's partnership was no longer a point of gossip or speculation. It had become something respected, even admired. Their trading success had brought them attention, and their ability to navigate both human and alien markets made them invaluable to the station's economy. But David could feel it. Something deeper, a need for more, was pulling him and Alara toward a new direction. One evening, after a long day of closing deals and managing inventory, they sat in the dimly lit lounge of their quarters, the soft hum of the station filling the background. A bottle of Virian nectar, their usual drink of choice, sat half empty on the table between them. "Do you ever feel like we've outgrown this place?" David asked, his gaze drifting out the window where the planet below spun slowly, its blue and green surface almost inviting them to come closer. Alara tilted her head, considering his words. I've felt it for a while now. The station is comfortable, but it's also limiting. We've learned a lot here, but I think we're ready for more. Something that's ours. David leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Exactly. We've built something great, but the politics here, the constant undercurrent of scrutiny, I'm tired of proving ourselves to people who don't see the bigger picture. If we moved operations to the planet, we could build something with no restrictions. Our own trade hub. Alara smiled, her eyes lighting up with the prospect. A settlement on the surface. We could set up trade routes directly with the miners, the suppliers. Cut out the middlemen. It would give us more control. David nodded, excitement growing as the idea took shape. More control, more freedom. And we wouldn't have to deal with the constant oversight from the station administrators. Down there, we could negotiate with whoever we wanted, create new opportunities. But there's risk too, Alara said, her voice thoughtful, though her expression remained eager. We'd be leaving the safety of the station. We'd be responsible for everything. Supplies, infrastructure, security. David laughed. Since when have we ever shied away from a little risk? Alara chuckled softly, shaking her head. True. We have been known to take a gamble or two. Still, it's a big decision. David leaned back, taking a sip of his drink before speaking again. I've already started looking into what it would take. There are unclaimed sections of land down there, near the northern mining regions. Not too far from resources, but isolated enough that we'd have the space to build. Alara raised an eyebrow. You've been thinking about this for a while, haven't you? He grinned. Maybe. She leaned in closer, her hand finding his. Well, you've convinced me. If we're doing this, let's do it right. Let's build something that doesn't just serve us, but the people who work with us. We can create a place where traders, miners, and suppliers come directly, a place where humans and aliens work side by side. David squeezed her hand, his mind already racing with the possibilities. We'd be pioneers down there, and it won't be easy. We'll need to set up communications, transport, security, and a place for people to live. But I think we're ready for it. Alara's gaze softened, but the determination was clear in her voice. I'm with you. We've built something out of nothing before, and we can do it again. Only this time, it's not just about survival. It's about creating something lasting. They sat together in silence for a moment, the weight of the decision settling in, but it wasn't a heavy feeling. It was a feeling of excitement, of challenge, of purpose. The station, with all its corridors and bustling markets, suddenly felt too small for the dreams they now shared. What's our first step? Alara asked, breaking the quiet. David smiled, the plan already forming in his mind. We'll need to secure the land first, make sure we have the rights to develop it. After that, it's logistics, supplies, infrastructure, and a team to help build. We'll also need to negotiate with the miners down there. Get them on our side early. Alara nodded, already making mental notes. I can start working on connections with the miners. There's a Hydroni settlement not far from where you're thinking. I might be able to use that as leverage for mutual benefits. I'll handle the legal side and the supplies. We'll need ships to transport goods down to the surface regularly, David added, his mind whirring with the many pieces they'd have to pull together. Good thing we're a team, Alara said, squeezing his hand once more before standing up, her posture straightening with purpose. Let's make this happen. David stood as well, feeling the momentum of their decision pushing them forward. Together, they faced the window, looking down at the planet that would soon become their new home, their new project. The stars, once the only space they knew, now seemed like the backdrop to a new horizon. This was the future they had been working toward, and they were ready to take it on. The quiet hum of the station faded into the background as the promise of a new life and a new adventure filled the air between them.